I give you 5 minutes. Yes or no? I give you until 9:20 and then we start with the lecture. Oh, by the way, that day you agree to answer the forums that I have uploaded on the spectrum, but so far no one tried to answer. So I'll close the forum by the end of this week if there is no answer from you. There is not compulsory for you to answer. So it's entirely up to your own what we call it initiative. So if there is no answer, then I'll close by the end of this week by Friday. So for today, is there any question? A quick question. Okay, good. No question. So I assume that everyone understand everything. So very good because you are in the final year already. So as long as you understood everything, then I'm fine with it. But the test proved that you did not understand the previous lecture. So, but the same thing is up to you because it's not compulsory to ask me any question. But I assume that way. If you don't ask question, that means you understood. Okay, now we go to our lecture for today. So sources of development finance. As usual, you can stop me in the middle of the lecture if you find that there is any question or something that you need more explanation. So you can stop me. So I'll try to re-explain. So let me share the screen first. Start to record the meeting first. Share the entire screen. So can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So we start with why do firms need capitals under the topic of sources of development finance? Because last week we have seen the process as well as the development, the process as well as the whole picture of how the development finance take place. So today we'll try to understand where do firms get capital in order to survive or in order to continue with their business. So number one is why do firms need capital? Because the capital is very important in order to create more wealth. So basically, with the existing wealth, so the firm actually need more in order to create more investment, in order to get more return. For example, here is by introducing the so-called IPOs, initial public offering, where firms think that they need more money, and then they have done a market study, etc., and they found that there is a worth it for them to get more fund in order to create more capital for the sake of the future investment. So the firms can actually come up with the IPOs. So IPOs, that means that they, from ordinary firms like, for example, Sendirian Berhad. So now they change it to Syarikat Berhad. So from private limited company, they change it to limited company, where it will become a public company by issuing shares. So basically, it will help the firm to grow further. And then the firm also need capital for the purpose of having a fixed capital, for example, to purchase land or buildings or computers or any other equipment such as machinery for the purpose of running the business that they are having. So basically, land and buildings are usually, for some firms, they rent from the market, but for those who have stronger capital or those who have less capital base, so they can actually purchase fixed capital by getting fund or loan from the financial institution in order to purchase the land and buildings, where the investment that they are having or the business they are having in terms of income will actually be used to pay all the funds they get from the financial institution. And then the firm also need capital for the purpose of working capital. So like we have seen before last week, so working capital is basically the initial capital that we need to pay all the employees when we started to, when we take property development, for example, at the beginning, we need to purchase the land, and then we need to have a site office. We need to pay all the employees' salaries. So this is called working capital, where the firms must have this in order to start with a short-term operation. So like business, like property development, we have seen last week. So we call this as a term loan, where it is convertible to the bridging finance. So for ordinary firm, they need something like term loan as well, for the purpose of short-term operations. And then the gross capital, so basically the firm need a fund in order to expand their business. For example, the existing building is not big enough, but they have extra land within the same area of the buildings on the same site, so they can actually expand by doing expansions to the buildings. And in order to do this, they need capital to survive. And then in terms of sources of finance, it can be divided into two, is a short-term or long-term. So when we talk in terms of classification, usually it will actually relate to the durations, where normally if you look at the textbook, some of the textbook define a short-term which is less than 1 year, and some can go up to 3 years. But for the purpose of our learning here, I would use the one that less than 1 year, which will be considered as short term. If more than 1 year, will actually be considered as long-term finance. So the classification usually relates to the duration and how long it takes before the money is received or must be repaid. So businesses and individuals usually use long-term or short-term sources of financing to raise capital for improvement and to meet their financial obligation. So meet financial obligations means some things like, if you look at the balance sheet, for example, so basically we have to come up with a balance sheet in terms of asset and liabilities. So sometimes because of some problems, the mismatch between liabilities and asset occur. Therefore, some firms, they need to have fund in order to match whatever problem they have at that time, because the mismatch of the asset and capital, the asset and liabilities. And then, in terms of duration, like I said just now, most short-term sources of financing occur over a period of 1 year, although some sources can last up to 3 years or longer. And then for long-term financings like home mortgages, so for example, it takes about 15 to 30 years, so definitely it fall under long-term finance. And then the interest also, because short-term financing is repaid over shorter lengths of time, and the interest rate or cost to borrow money will usually be smaller as compared to long-term. And then for long-term sources, such as bank loans, usually have a higher interest rate due to the amounts of time it takes to finance the loan and repay the capital. So what I put here is usually, I use the word usually because this is under the normal market circumstances. But lately, I noticed that some banks, they offer lower rate as well for long-term financing. And then for short-term financing, it become a higher rate due to the risk that um, the 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 market is having now. So the market is not that good. So basically, the long-term finance is still secured as compared to short term, because short terms during the market during the hard time like now, so basically maybe the banks are worried about the firms who cannot actually repay the loans they have taken. So in terms of interest rate, is basically um, uh, we cannot say that for all the times short-term finance will have a higher interest rate, but it depends on the market. But under normal market circumstances, where the market is considered good, so basically the rule of thumb applies here, where the short-term finance will have higher interest rate as compared to long-term finance. So in terms of the types that we have when we talk about the sources of finance, so the short-term and long-term sources of finance only vary in instrument type. So we just need to sign a different instrument and nothing more than that. And why do firms need short-term financings? So we have discussed a bit just now, where the cash flow from operation may not be sufficient to keep up with growth-related financing needs. So we have seen the diagram last week to show that the points of where the firms or the developers can actually start to sell the unit, launch the units or launch the project, where they actually get the advertisement permit, and all other permits have been approved. So basically, they can actually launch the project. So in terms of the strategies they have, if the firm can actually get a better strategy, and then the strategies they have employed have been materialized, so basically the line of the revenue will go up faster. If you can recall that particular diagram, that's why I asked you to do try to answer for the forum, but none of you has tried. But it's fine with me. You don't want to try, so I'm okay with it. I don't have to check. So basically, when the line is the lines go up very fast, so therefore they will have usually sufficient finance in order to grow, because they will actually pay the term loan and short term and bridging finance faster, and then the net present value or the present value curve will actually go up faster, and then the break even point will also be faster. So if they, just in case if the strategy is not materialized, and therefore the line will be slightly lower, the revenue line, and therefore the firm needs more capital in order to survive, in order to grow. And then the firms may prefer to borrow now for the inventory. Inventory means that the stocks depends on the business. Sometimes they prefer to borrow money to purchase inventory. So maybe because of the price is cheaper now, but due to the inflation, if they do not purchase now and they wait until the next few years when they want to start the business, and therefore because of the inflation rate is high, for example, so basically the cost will also be high. And then for example, if you talk in terms of a development company, usually development companies, they do not have anything. They just run the business, but the ones who actually do the constructions come from contractors. That's why they appoint contractors. But they appoint contractors. Contractors also have to purchase. Contractor is also a firm, so they have to purchase inventory, the material, construction material, etc. So if they think that the price now is good, then they purchase and they use it, or they put in their own store as inventory for the purpose of using it when they start to construct the building. So basically, the firms will actually need to borrow now instead of later, um, and then they will use the stocks they have for the purpose of future development. So the same thing for other businesses. And then the firm will actually prefer short-term financing instead of long-term sources of financing due to easier availability. So short-term, like term loans, is available anytime. So if we approach the financial institution, so we usually, that means the firm usually get it easily, but subject to proper documentation submitted to the financial institution. For example, who are the board of directors and how long the firm or how good the firm has been performing so far as a record for them uh, to assess. So the process, like you have seen before last week, so they will use that kind of process in order to come up with their own justification whether to accept to the application or not. And then for short term, like I said just now, under normal market circumstances, usually short term loan will have a lower cost, but not necessarily the case. Under normal market circumstances, yes, we can say that usually has lower costs. And then why do firms need long-term financing? So number one is because of for modernization. So for the firm which has old buildings, with old machinery, for example, and the demand for that particular product is very high, and therefore they have to purchase modern machinery in order to come out or to speed up with the process of their product, etc. Or for the purpose of, like I said just now, expansion. So that means they have to expand the existing buildings in order to modernize it, to put more or proper machinery. And then this will actually help firm to run the long-term business. So for expansion and then diversification as well. So diversification means that they can actually diversify the business in terms of the location. So now they have one factory in Selangor, for example. So they can actually diversify by having more factories, manufacturing, especially in Penang, if the market is so good. And then they can also diversify in terms of the type of business they are having. For example, you have actually learned about the REITs companies last time. So they diversify in terms of the type of business. So if now they are having commercial buildings like offices, for example, and they may invest, they may need more fund in order to diversify, to purchase or to get themselves involved in, um, let's say, industrial. So they diversify their business. And then because of the huge quantities required, so whenever they want to expand their business for modernization purposes, so obviously they need a huge or lot of funds, not small fund, because small funds usually can come up from their own uh, pocket money or from their own accounts, the firm's existing account. But if they do not have enough money for the purpose of modernization, but they can think that if they invest now with 10 million, for example, and then they have to estimate the cash flow, that means the feasibility study that you will actually be doing once you graduate, if you you join uh, the research and consultancy. But if you do valuation, usually you do not deal with feasibility study. So this feasibility study that you submitted will actually be used by the financial institution to assess whether the fund they have applied can be approved or not. So basically, it will involve huge quantities of money in order to expand, and this is where the firm need long-term finance. And then whenever we want to have investment, for example, or to diversify or to modernize or to expand our business, the decision we or the board of directors will actually make will not be immediate. So for example, this will involve huge capital. If they want to expand, so that means the result is now, but the expansion won't take place now because they will make decision for next year, and then once decision is made, it will not be reversible. So basically, because it will involve huge fund, that's why a good company with good governance, with good board of directors, we should come up with a wise decision, because if anything goes wrong, so basically it cannot be reversed, and therefore the firms will actually fail to actually expand their business. So careful analysis and careful justification has to be done in order to come up with a firm decision. And then the banks will also look at all the necessary requirements or documentation in order to approve the firm decision. And then another issue is asset liabilities mismatch, like I said just now. So if we look at the balance sheet, if good company will actually have asset equal to liabilities, but under certain circumstances, the liabilities and assets will not be balanced, or in other words, mismatch. So basically, the firms need capital or need financing in order to balance up between the asset and liabilities. And then the interest rate risk. So usually, uh, sometimes because of the fluctuations of interest rate in the market. So that's why I said just now, some firm they prefer to purchase products, raw products, for the purpose of inventory, because on the assumption that the market will not be good next year, and then therefore the interest rate, usually when the market is not good, the interest rate will usually increase. And then unless if the central banks of any country actually play roles by reducing the basis points of OPR, and therefore the interest rate can actually be reduced. But if the market is okay and the central banks do not reduce the basis point of the OPR, and therefore the firm will actually be having difficulties in terms of the fluctuation of interest rate, as well as the liquidity risk. So liquidity risk means that the firms, like when we involve real estate, for example, because um, because of the times taken in order to sell. So like for example, my experience now, I'm trying to sell factory or manufacturing in Tampoi, Johor. So the price is 100 million. I try to advertise, locally as well as internationally, but it has already been 3 months. I do not have any response yet because of the uh, COVID situation. So for this kind of situation, if the companies that are going to sell, because the market value is 100 million, if we manage to sell this, so basically we'll get about 10 million, uh, 10 million fee. So that's why, most people, they like to do agency because the luxury fee, the luxurious fee that they have. So like this case, all those, um, if you manage to sell, we'll get a 10 million, but up to 3 months, still no one's interested to purchase because the current pandemic situation basically uh, um, make them difficult to invest further. But we just wait on that. So that's it's referred to liquidity risk. So that particular company, that particular manufacturers who is going to sell the property for 100 million. So if they cannot sell, like now only 3 months they cannot sell. So if it is prolonged up to 1 year, so basically this firm or this manufacturer will be having financing problem, and therefore they need more fund to survive because they have asset. The banks we usually give the money, no issue, because the buildings or the 100 million factory can actually be used as collateral for the purpose of getting the money from the banks. But if they can sell, it's much better because the companies found that they cannot produce the products anymore because the demand is bad during uh, COVID. So they have no choice; they have to sell, but they still can get finance from the company and from the finance institution, long-term finance in order to survive. So that's what it means by why do firms need long-term financing. So the ability of firms to repay short-term borrowings will actually depend on the long-term commitment. So that means the ability to sell the property unit. So if they can prove to the financial institution that they can actually sell the unit in future, therefore the firm will actually get short-term borrowings. And then the willingness of banks to provide short-term loans depend on a firm commitment to gain long-term finance. So if our business is good with a proper track record, with proper management, and therefore the banks will actually uh, approve the long-term finance. So basically, the long-term finance will actually depends on the cash flow that you have seen last week. So if the cash flow shows good, and then usually the bank will actually provide short-term loans. So long-term finance, which is the commitments by the firm, where they can prove that they can actually get more money or more capital, and therefore the banks will actually consider short-term loans quickly. And then the investors to purchase the completed buildings through forward sale, for example, forward sale mean that the building has not been completed. For example, if one of the developer actually constructing commercial buildings or retail buildings, so basically the firm can actually purchase, like REITs company, for example. So like we have learned before, for REITs company, they are not eligible to develop the buildings, and then they use the buildings for the purpose of renting in order to become REITs company. They can do that, but they will not be recognized as REITs company, and then they cannot enjoy all the uh, incentive given by the government. But for the REITs company, they can actually purchase the property which is ongoing, under development by any developers. That means they have already booked. So once completed, they can start operation. So investors will actually purchase the completed buildings through forward sale, and the banks will usually consider long-term finance for this, short-term finance for this particular business. So at the initial stage, the firm will actually depends on the share capital. So share capitals mean that among the board of directors, so how much share that they have, because the shares will actually tell us how much profit that we will get. So every year, uh, audit must be done by registered accountant, and therefore from there, based on the shares that we have, so basically all the declared profit at that time will actually be distributed according to the share. Like my case, for example, with uh, uh, Cushman and Whitfield, the firms that I'm having now. So basically my share is 50%, so 50-50. So between myself and the partner. So basically um, every year, all the profit that we have will actually be splitted into two according to the share 50-50. So it is basically supplemented by external sources such as bank loans. So bank loans is very important to support the share capitals, and then to provide investment capitals. So basically, at the initial stage, the firm will actually depends on the share capital. So basically, like we have discussed before, the share capital will actually uh, help the firm to get fund from the financial institution in order to proceed with um, um, purchasing of the land. If you refer to the developer, purchasing of the land, and then site clearance, and then to uh, site clearance, and then to serve working capitals, as well as site office. So basically, all of the firms need money as the initial at the initial stage in order to run the business. So, any question up to now?
Doctor,
Hmm.
Liscon here. Just wondering, when this kind of firm they borrow the fund from the financial institution, any collateral will be charged to bank?
Yes,
Or
like I said just now. For example, the buildings that I'm trying to sell now, the 100 million. If I cannot sell, so the firm or the owner still need money, so they can actually use that building, the 100 million buildings, as a collateral in order to survive before they can actually uh, finally sell the building. So collateral is there. You must have collateral. But collateral will not be necessarily the property itself. So in order to get the short-term finance, usually the share of the company's shareholders are very important. The management or the directors of the companies will usually have their own shares. So basically, the shares can actually be used as a collateral to get the loan from financial institution as well. So, but not necessarily the property. But when we talk about mortgage loan, then as well as bridging finance, then the property or the site, development site itself will actually be used as collateral. But for ordinary business, in order to do expansion, for example, like you are selling burger, for example, so your burger become very good in the market and got a lot of demand, and you don't have property or in terms of asset. The only thing you have is profit, and then you also have partner um, to run the business. So basically, the shareholders of the partner, in terms of profit, can actually be used as a documentation to be submitted to the banks for consideration. So depends. But when we talk in terms of property, and usually the property will actually be used as collateral. Okay, Ligon?
Yes, doctor. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? One more question. By the way, next week we will be having the second test. For next week will be week 13 already. So we'll have the second test. So I hope that the second test will not be the same as the first test, because I always ask you, give you time to ask me, but you never try. And then if the second times also shows or prove the other way around, you don't understand, for example, you don't answer the question, for example. So it's proven that you did not actually uh, follow my class, and I'll become very, very shy for trying to make you understand, but you yourself do not want to have your own self. And then towards the end, you blame me by saying that I'm not that good in teaching, for example, or no, what we call it, no, you know, there is a specific word that we use. So no interaction between the students and the lecturer. If you blame me because of that, so become unfair, because I always give you time to ask me, and then you never ask. So this is that no instruction and no interaction, especially during online learnings. Uh, so basically, uh, not that good if you say that. But if I really do not give you time, and then do not really give you a chance to ask me to communicate, then I will accept that. But it's entirely up to you. I will accept whatever decision you give, because when we do a C test, even affects any lecturer in terms of performance. But the only thing is we need to know, what the student feels, and then we can actually improve in future. That's all. Even if you get a very bad C test, it doesn't mean that we lost our work, our job, and then we have to go to find other job somewhere. No such thing. But the student will actually help us to identify the problem. Whenever comment you have given us, not only about the lecturer, but about the faculty itself in terms of the ability of learning resources, having problem, etc. You don't have enough credit, for example, you can actually comment, but not enough credit to purchase, um, to purchase, to buy credit, for example. So that one will actually involve all of the subject, not any one particular subject. But what I'm talking about now is one particular subject. If you say that I never communicated with you, I never helped you, I never interact with you. So basically, you become unfair to me if you say that, because I always give you time. Okay, but you have the right. You can say that if you want to. I'm okay because it won't affect my post at all. But I cannot actually improve. If you say like that, I cannot actually improve because you never told me what I'm supposed to do. So the same things, I try to get interact with you by offering you a forum, but it has been almost, the second weeks already, but no one have intention to try. I'm fine. You don't try, so I don't have to do anything because I've already explained the class everything, and then it's happened to be you also have online lecture recorded, as compared to if we have lecture in the physical class, you do not have recorded lecture. So basically, everything you have to understand during the class. So whether the lecturer give you a video, uploaded a video for you to refer later on, or he do not provide any recorded lecture, it doesn't make any difference. By right, you are not supposed to have recorded lecture if you come to the physical class, because no lectures will be recorded on the physical class. So you should be happy now whenever the lecturers, not only me, but other lecturers, whenever we uploaded the lectures not for you to refer. So you should thank the lecturers because you have actually extra uh, notes that you are not supposed, you will never get it during the physical class. But if you keep blaming the lectures, because the online class is no good, I will agree. Sometimes no good, maybe because of the internet connection, etc. But there is a plus factor as well as minus factors. So we have to justify that. So orang tua ni merepek lagi. But it's true. I'm talking about the facts. So things about it, because you are in the final year already. You are supposed, you are going out to be a professional. If you bring this kind of attitude, keep quiet, do not have idea, do not want to talk, then nobody is going to give you a job, to offer you job whenever you go, for the interview. Academic qualification for me, even if you get a first class, you got 3.7 CGPA and above, for me, it doesn't make any sense. I'm an academician as well as an employer. So I also interview people who want to join my firm. So basically, if you bring your certificate with 3.7 CGPA or even 4 flat, I'm not looking at that one. That is just a plus factor. I want to see your own, what we call it, personality. Personality, not in terms of whether you are pretty or you are handsome or not. No such thing. Ability in terms of that, based on my question, I will assess you personally. And of course, also have human resource person will be with me as well. So we will assess you whether you can do your works or not. Although you don't have experience, but we know already your what we call it, personality in terms of your attitude. We know that whenever we talk, we ask you question. So if the way that you answer will actually tell us whether you are worthy to be employed at this firm or not. So not only me, but any other firms. That's why we train you to present your report. We train you to be serious whenever you present the report. Although sometimes we make joke, lecturer make joke, but apart from it, you have to prepare yourself. That's why during all the presentation, but this subject we do not have presentation. But the new one will have presentation. The new curriculum review, I propose that your junior will have presentation started from next year. And then you also have assignment for this subject. Your junior will have assignment for this subject start from next year. Because this curriculum, I did not do it. I was overseas during curriculum review for this subject. So other people, the departments at that times come up with no exam. That's why no coursework. That's why we do not have coursework for this subject. We only have 2 tests and then final exam. But the new one will have tests as well as a project to be presented at the end of the semester. So basically, the purpose of having all these kind of things during presentation, that's why all those it becomes a little bit informal. But the thing is, we are assessing you in terms of, number one, your look in terms of the way or the proper dress that you are wearing to be a professional. Because if you go for TPC, if you wear T-shirt, you do not have a shave, for your beard, for example, you can keep the beard, but must be good, must be repaired properly. And then the way that you present to us, for example, when we ask you question, how do you derive the yield for term, and why do you use NP, the rate for PV lower than the term, for example? And then your answer should be professional. You do not say that, oh, I'm doing this because Dr. Rosli said this, or because Dr. Wan said this, and then you refer to your lecturer. You are supposed to understand what you are talking about in the real situation. You cannot say that because Dr. Rosli from UM told us this. You will fail definitely if you attempt TPC. You answer that way. You must come up with a good answer, which is logic. Although the thing come from lecturers, but never ever mention the lecturers during official interview, unless if the interviewer asks you, who told you this, or where did you learn this, then you got to give the proper answer if you want to. But when there is a general question about it, you never ever mention, because you are supposed to learn. So the same things for this subject. That's why I always say that try to understand and try to ask me, because I don't want you to say that there is no interaction between the lecturer and the student. When I become fair to you, you also have to become fair to me as well. But if you don't want to be fair to me, I'm fine with it. It won't affect my job at all. But I feel a little bit frustrated because, I think that you can follow the class, but you prove the other way. So that's why I don't want to be that way. So since you don't want to ask me any questions, we'll continue with the sources of finance. So basically, it can be separated into 2, either internal or external. So under internal sources, we have 3 types of sources. Number 1 is called return profit. Number 2 is depreciation provision. Number 3 is deferred payment. So under deferred payment, usually we have taxation as well as dividends. And then for external, usually we have overseas or offshores. So in Malaysia, if you talk in terms of offshores finance, it is located in Labuan, Sabah. So it caters the offshore finance for Malaysia. And then we have domestic. So domestic can be either trade credit, factoring, short-term loan, and hire purchase. And then the short-term loans, we have the overdraft. So overdraft, like the term loans that we are talking last week, and then any other loans, any other short-term loans or financial, personal finance given by a financial institution. So now we go one by one. So internal sources is referred to or arises from the decisions of management. So that means the board of directors will actually decide how much that we can actually keep for the purpose of future investment and how much that we will actually declare as a dividend to our shareholders, for example. So this is not applicable to REITs company because REITs companies, they cannot save or they cannot have the internal sources more than 10% because any profit that they are having, they must declare about 90% of their profit as dividends to the shareholders, and then they can only keep 10% of the profit for their own use. But for other companies, they can actually decide. The board of directors through internal management meetings will actually decide how much they want to keep. That's why if you get yourself, if you join the stock market, for example, Bursa Malaysia, or the best one is if you can join New York Stock Exchange, because if you join New York Stock Exchange, there are two things that you will actually get. Number one is dividend. Number two is the intrinsic value that increase, where this intrinsic value you learn from business valuation later on. So the intrinsic value will actually give us, the profit that we are targeting. But some company, they do not provide dividends, but they provide intrinsic value. And then, but one thing, if you join later on, I'm sure you get yourself involved later on. If you are, you are good investor. So the only things, if we purchase the company that offer dividends, as compared to Malaysia, you have to pay 30% of the dividends profit to the US government. But in Malaysia, you don't have to. You don't have to pay 30%. Your dividend is still your dividend. And then, but only the best thing about New York Stock Exchange, although we have to pay dividend, so even to get rid of a dividend, then just by the company do not sell dividend. So that means you purchase share and the share of the company will goes up with the company itself. If the company grows with higher value in terms of credit worthiness, and then your share will be higher as well. And then if you purchase during the ringgit is low, is high, and then when the share grow further, by the time the ringgit drop and then you sell, so you'll become rich easily if you start from the time that you start working. So, you graduate and then you start to earn income. So if you know how to purchase share, and then you'll become very successful within a short period of time. Maybe within 5 years, you don't have to be working, to struggle to earn money anymore. Just work for fun. So for me, no one advised me before. So that's why I didn't know. I don't know how to go. To come up with this kind of business. So since I already involved myself, so because you are my student, so I'm advising you. For me, last time when I started to work, no one, because I graduated from Reading University, and then all of my colleagues also from Reading University, when we come back to Malaysia, I don't know anyone here, no classmate, Even I only have two classmates from Reading, because only 3 Malaysian at that time doing the same course. When we come back, we also, none of us have colleagues in Malaysia like you all in the same class for the last 3 years. So you need to help each other in terms of, you know, advising your friend. So it's a lot easy. For me, I struggle. I did not know anyone. It really depends on my own personal quality or personality, and then the perceptions that the companies seen me at that time. So basically, depends on entirely from my own initiative. Like you all, you have colleagues once you graduate. So one is working in Penang, the other one is working in JB. So you can always ask, if you have a case in JB, you can ask someone in JB. And then you do not have you have lectures, you know, even you tend to forget us later on, we are fine, because you also have your own future. But if you think about that, without lecturer, you won't get your degree. Same thing, without cikgu at school, you will never enter a So basically, there, what we call it, obviously in future, we'll, for example, myself, I will never know you. You know, especially after 10 years, you come back to me and you ask me, do you still recognize me? Of course, I will never recognize. That's why I always call, you know, different strange name to my student, uh, with all sort of names. Because next time, in 10 years time, you come back to me, or you used to call me this, so I can easily remember. But now, because of the class we're having now, it's online, so I do not call you a strange name. And then you also don't want to talk to me when I ask you to ask me any question, you do not ask me. So basically, there is a chances that I do not know you in the future if you do not really tell me who you are for me to recall, because I do not only have you in the class, especially your class, because this, I only teach you this semester. Next semester, I'm going to take a leave. I'm supposed to teach you real estate market research, but there will be someone, I don't know who's going to teach you, because I'm going to take about, I actually applied for 9 months leave, but the dean told me that he will only approve 5 months. So basically, if everything goes as planned, uh, I will not teach you next semester. And then after that, you go for the LI. When you go for the LI, there will be no lectures anymore. So towards the end, you know, I will never, not I will never, but I will not recognize you within a very short time. Only a few of you maybe, but for the whole class, obviously I cannot recall, not because I don't want to know you, but because of the times, as well as, you know, you do not portray yourself to be remembered. So basically, I will never know you in the future. You have to reintroduce yourself in order for me to recognize you. Okay, never mind. That's your choice. I'm talking about whatever I talk is something like the experience I used to have. So whether you want to take it or not, it's up to you. Nothing to do with the lecture. So that's why I always goes out of the lecture topic for a while, in order uh, to make sure that you are still awake. So for the lectures, if I follow the lecture straight away, you tend to sleep, especially in the morning like this. You know what happened to my wife class, because she's also lecturer at UITM. So when she teach, one of the student forgot to off the camera, and then at that time, because the notebook or the laptop is facing his bed, so it happened to be, the camera shows that he's taking out the blanket and then sleep on his bed during the lecture, and the camera is focusing on him. So I hope that that's why I prefer you to show me your face, because I want to see you are still awake. That's why I sometimes I double check whether you are in or not when I call your name, and then you keep quiet. So basically you are off already, either sleeping or you go away. So that's why I always say that do not actually uh, uh, you know um, because if you cheat by in your mind, if you have something like, okay, I want to join the class and then I'll go away, leave the computer on. So if you try to cheat that way, that means you are cheating your own self, because you are the one who's going to learn. You're the one who's going to sit in the final exam, not the lecturer. So for me or for us, whether you come or not, it doesn't make any difference. But of course, we prefer you to come because we have to fulfill our duty to teach you, to finish the lecture. But if you see one of the case that we're having now from other department at the faculty, we are having the case that the lecturer only done only 5% out of the lecture. For the last 12 weeks, only 5% has been done. So that lecturer did not do his duty, but luckily not from our department. So basically, these kind of things, if you compare to other departments, you should thanks to our lecturers here in the real estate department, because all of us are committed. Maybe you don't like us in terms of the way that we teach, but that's why that one depend on the what we call it, the personality or the ability of the lecturer. We try our best to teach you. So the same things, for you, if you don't want to help yourself, there is nothing much we can do. Okay, so we stop Belete. I'm sure that you don't like it. So now we go to the short-term finance. We continue with the lecture internal sources. So normally arises from internal management decisions. For example, retained profit, which is the major source of internal finance for many companies. So like I said just now, for ordinary company, that means that the decision come from board of directors. So basically, if the board of directors decided that they want to keep 70% of the profit, so that one will become retained profit. And then only because they want to keep 60%, so that means 40% will actually be declared as dividend. That's why the dividends of the companies paid to the shareholder will actually differ. But sometimes even we get low dividends, but do not think that the company is no good. In terms of the investment, keep continue to invest, because the company use the money for their own for future investment. That means they want to expand the business, which will be very good. So if you do that, the share price will increase for that particular company. Even the dividend we're getting now is slightly lower than we are supposed to get. But some companies, they're having problem. That's why asset and liability is very important. If liabilities is much higher than the asset, and then the dividend is low, so we better sell our shares if you get yourself involved in the share market. And then the external sources normally rise from outside the company. For example, ordinary shares, loans, and other credit facilities. So the external sources, so like we have seen before, so we need to get loans from financial institution, as well as we get credit from other financial institution. So now we say the trade credits. What does it mean by the trade credits? It will actually allow the firm to purchase goods and services now without pay until a certain date. So basically, we need money, we need fund in order to purchase computers now, or in order to purchase machinery now. Depends on what business we are doing. So we need the money to purchase goods and services now, but we don't have to pay until next year, for example, or until the next 2 years, for example. So this is called a trade credits. So careful management of trade credit can help ease of cash flow, usually between 28 and 90 days to pay. So up to 3 months to pay. So this is the same like the term loan. The term loan, we need the money now in order to purchase goods and services. But for business, we call term loan for developer because term loan involve construction, property developments. But this one for ordinary business, and of course including the development companies as well. So in terms of the trade credit, it can actually help the company reduce the cash flow, the negative cash flow they are having. So, and then of course, on the expectation that they will actually get a profit in the next 30 to 90 days, or even more than that up to next year, for example, one whole year. So usually they need trade credits to help them. So typically, credit terms are determined by the trade association or involve custom or practice. Custom doesn't refer to the Malaysian custom department. Custom, that means the normal way that we are doing, the adat in bahasa. So the normal way we are doing here. So basically, it will be determines the credit terms. So because of the time difference between the purchase of raw material, for example, if you are having a clothing factory, for example, so basically you buy all the material, raw material from overseas in order to be processed, and then from the material you come up with, shirt, trousers, etc., clothing. So basically, you sell the final product. So the supplier would be willing to provide long-term credit. So this is because of the raw materials that are needed is basically now. So you need the money to purchase the materials, the one that we mentioned just now, to purchase for the purpose of inventory. And then once the raw material is processed, then you come up with the final products, then you start to pay the financial institution. So because of the time difference between the purchase of raw materials and selling the final product, the supplier will be willing to provide long-term credit. So in the provision of trade credit, the discounts usually be given to encourage the early payment. So they will reduce the discount. If you pay faster, then you get a discount. So that is trade credit. And then deferred payment. So the funds are kept separate until the date of payments of taxes and dividends. So the payment of corporate tax liability is 1 year after the year in which the profit earned. So the firm will actually use the funds for at least a year before tax were paid. So every year the companies has to be audited by accountant, registered accountant. So basically, when it comes to the profit, the firms or the companies usually have to pay income tax. So let's say December, it's already January, so December, most company they close their what we call it year-to-year business in December. But my company is different. We close in June, so it depends on the company. So usually in December. So in December, the accountant or the auditor will actually audit the company account, and then they come up with the gross profit for that particular year. So from that profit, it is subject to corporate tax. So that corporate tax we know already. So that corporate tax is supposed to be paid next year, 1 year after December this year. So that means by December 2021. So because we keep aside that amount, because company usually involve millions and millions of ringgit. So basically it's quite a lot for big companies, you know, very big company, for example, the profit can be up to 10 million or 20 million, depend on the business. So they can keep that money until December next year. So during this period, if they think that they have more investment that can generate profit, then they can actually use this deferred payment, the money that they keep as a tax to be paid next year, they can actually use for the purpose of the business in order to make more money. So this is called a deferred profit, a deferred payment. So payment of corporate tax liability is 1 year after the year in which the profit earned. So the firm will actually use the fund for at least a year before taxes were paid. And then factoring. Hang on a second, I need to drink because my throat is dry already. So the sales of debt to a specialist firm who secures payment and charges a commission for the service. So what it means here, whenever we have a company, so we need more machinery, for example, or make it simple, for a small company, they may need a computer for their staff. Let's say they need about 5 computers only. So that company will actually purchase from a firm, from other company, from the company that are selling computer. So basically, they receive the computer, but they do not pay yet because they don't have money, small company. So basically, they will pay the other companies, let's say on a monthly basis, bit by bit, for example. So the balance of the money they are supposed to pay to the companies that sold them the computer. So basically, the balance of the invoice they are having can actually be sold to factoring companies at a discount price. For example, they still have to pay 10,000 out of the 15,000 computer they purchased. So they already paid 5,000 on monthly basis, for example. So the balance is 10,000. So that 10,000 can actually be sold to the factoring company for the price less than 10,000. So let's assume that 8,000. So now they sell the inventory to factoring company for 8,000. So that factoring company will actually pay the company that sold them the computer, and then the factoring company will actually make about 2,000 there. 2,000 because the value of the inventory is 10,000. So basically, the difference is 2,000. So the factoring company will actually make 2,000 profit. So setting up funds based on firms' debt securities, where the funds are received in advance of the debtor to pay, like I explained just now. So liquidity problems normally occurs on a small, newly established firm because of the inability to collect the due debts. So small companies, when they start the business, before they become a big company, giant company, usually they have to struggle first. It's normal. And then if the market is good, they'll get the money faster. But if the market is not so good, like now, so if we started our company during this period, 2019, 2020, then we'll be having trouble. We're having problem because the business is not so good, not because there is no demand, but because people are worried about how long the market is going to be like this. That's why the government also, relax in terms of PKP. Now we can cross state, we can go wherever we want. You can go have part two if you want to, as compared to last time to have part two also difficult. So basically, um, the purpose is, not because we are free from COVID. You can see that from day to day, the number of people who are infected with this disease increase. And then yesterday or the day before was the highest with 2,000 something. So it's very scary, but the government has no choice now. If they still stop people from moving from one place to another, the economy will be bad. So they want to activate the economy. So they have no choice. So we have to go back, to be normal. And then you also have to come back to UM in March, where I'm not going to be in UM for the whole semester, but you have to come back. So basically to activate the economy, otherwise the government is having a huge deficit, and then more company will become, will bankrupt, and people losing the job in Tesla will increase. So in order to avoid that, we have to activate the economy again. That's why PKB. But it doesn't mean that we can move from one place to another freely, because some people think that way. That's why the cases increase from time to time. So liquidity problem normally occurs on small newly established firm because of the inability to collect the due debts. So when we sell our products to our client or to our customer, then the time taken is very long. So the same thing for real estate firm, for example, like our the firm I'm doing now. So basically, all the report outs already, but the client is having problem to pay. But definitely they will pay because we have a contract. It's just a matter of time. But if we do not have, we do not get the money quickly, and then the market also like this, all the clients stop paying. So at that time, maybe we'll be having problem, but so far so good. But maybe we'll be having problem. So we also need to sell, all the bill invoice that our client have to pay us to factoring companies. So in other words, once the factoring companies purchase our invoice, so the factoring company will pay us, but with definitely slightly lower price, because they also need a profit. So they just wait for our client to pay, and then the factoring company will take the full amounts of fees that our clients are supposed to pay us. That's for example only. So basically, the invoice can actually be sold to factoring company. So financial institutions typically provide factoring services to this firm. So basically, most financial institutions do that. And then there is also specialists we call factoring companies, which definitely provide factoring services. Financial institutions depends. They will assess our invoice first. So the services include the administrations of invoices, an insurance against bad debts. So when they take insurance, basically if our client do not pay us, then because of the insurance, so they can actually get from insurance, or they can actually sue the client. And then advance is given to the firm up to 80%. That's why I say 20% are different of the value to the debt to be collected. And the factoring incurs specific tax for professional services, and it does not help the firm to maintain adequate sources of working capital, especially during a critical period of sale. And then another thing is for short-term loans. So we have overdraft facilities. So the right to be able to withdraw funds the firms do not currently have. So overdraft facilities is exactly the same like term loan. So I will go very quickly because we have learned this before under term loan. And then it will actually provide flexibility to a firm, and then the interest only paid on the amount overdrawn. So like credit card. I told you term loan is the same like credit card account. So the overdraft limit will actually be up to the financial institution that we know in advance. And then this method is the easiest and cheapest way, especially when the need is only temporary. So if we use the money, we do not pay on time, then the interest will be charged. But if we pay on time, no interest. So that means we get the fund, we pay within the stipulated time given to us. So basically there is no charge in terms of interest. And then this service is provided under the current account where the customer is qualified to withdraw funds up to the approved limit. So current accounts as compared to your account now is basically a saving account. But current account is special. You do not get much profit. Even saving account also not much profit, but the interest given by the banks for the current account is much lower. And then we also have, whenever we issue check, when people issue checks, so basically you must have a current account. So this service is provided in the current account where the customer is qualified to withdraw funds up to the approved limit, and then the interest will only be charged on the amount withdrawn, and then the paid amount can be utilized again for
Hello?
to provide collateral to yes.
And now we
Now we
lost
lost you, Doctor.
We can't hear you, Doctor.
Now also we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Yes, yes.
Uh,
Can you hear me?
now can.
Oh, now can. Okay, so I will repeat again. So we have bank loans, which is personal loans that we actually get from financial institution. So usually we have to bring our pay slip to the banks for the last 3 months, for example, and then the bank will actually assess our pay slip, and the bank will also assess our existing commitment. And then based on that, the bank can actually come out with the actual amount that the banks can actually approve for the purpose of personal loans. So the period that we have to pay back is usually between 5 to 10 years. So this is other loans. And then hire purchase, which is for the purpose of purchasing vehicles, for example. So it will actually provide the opportunity to secure the use of capital with the ownership, especially a leasing, effectively a hire agreement. So that means we purchase a car. So the car is belong to us, but the thing is under the documentation, the banks actually have the right for that particular car. That's why if you do not pay for more than 3 months, and then the bank will start to hire the companies that will actually get the car back by force. I don't know what we call it in English, but in bahasa we call it tarik kereta. So that means the company, the debt company, you know, that's why they come with bonds or very rude people who actually force us to give the key and then get the car, or something like that. So this will actually provide the opportunity to secure the use of capital without ownership. So we pay on monthly basis, provided we pay on time. And then we have anything to ask about short-term finance? Because some of long-term finance will also be considered as short-term finance. No?
Doctor, the factoring is we sell our invoices, right? The
Yes, invoice. Yes.
that invoice. I'm a bit confused about the word that actually, because from your explanation, it seems like we are selling the account receivables, like other owning us money, and then we sell the invoice to other company to get the fund, and then the repayment will be paid to the factoring company. Is it like that?
I lost your voice about when you said you were confused. So can you repeat that part?
Okay, so on the slide of the factoring, it says that sale of debt. I'm a bit confused with the word debt actually, because from your explanation, it seems like we are selling the account receivable to the factoring company, and the repayment will be to the factoring company, like that.
Okay. So you, or let's say you are doing business, okay? You are doing business, so you have customer. So customer approach you to purchase something, and then you sell to that customer, and then that customer is supposed to pay you because you are selling the product, and that customer is supposed to pay you, but the customer will pay you next year, for example. So depends on the mutual agreement. So you have that invoice to show that your customer owe you 20,000 ringgit, for example. So you have invoice on that. So that means you are expecting to receive the money from your customer next year was 20,000 ringgit. So because now you're having problem, or maybe you want to expand the business, even no problem, but you want to employ more people, for example, so you have to pay more salary, you have to pay to purchase more computer, for example. So because you have 20,000 that you are supposed to receive, but not now, but you need the money urgently, you cannot force your customer to pay you, because they may also have the same style of business, you know, because they also have invoice from their customer, the same like you. You have invoice from them, they also have invoice from the customer. So basically, the invoice that you have can actually be sold to the factoring company. So the value of the invoice is 20,000, and then the company, the factoring company, will only pay you 80% of 20,000. So that means about 18,000 only. So that means you will get the money, 18,000. That is your money. But your customer will actually pay to the factoring companies for the same amount, 20,000. So that means the factoring company will receive 2,000 profit. Okay? Is it clear?
Okay, very clear. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. So now we go to long-term finance. So the same thing, we have internal and external. And internal, we have retained profit. So retained profit, I don't think I have to re-explain again. I will explain depreciation provision. So this is under internal. And then for external, we have domestic as well overseas. So overseas, like the offshore, like I said just now, in Labuan. So we have offshore banking, and then for domestic we have mortgage. So mortgage also you have learned before. So we go this very quickly, and then we have sale and leaseback. We have the share issues. So the same thing like short-term finances now. We have debentures. You have learned debentures, which is debt, and then long-term loan. We have to go very quickly because you also have class at 11 o'clock. So return profit, I have explained to you. So the board of director can actually decide how much profit that they are going to keep for future, and then how much that they are going to declare as dividend. So basically the same thing. It can be considered as short-term finance as well as a long-term finance, because the more money they have, so that means they can actually use it for long-term instead of short-term. But if they decided to have very small portion and they just to cover short-term, then more dividend will be paid to the customer. So that is return profit. And then depreciation provision, it is, if you look at the balance sheet, I'm sure that you have learned from Zo in the first year, but I don't know whether you still can remember or not. But I do not learn in the first year that subject with you, but I never entered Zo class, but I still know about the depreciation provisions, about the balance sheet, about the profit and loss account. So because of what? Not because I have a degree in it, but because I know that it is very important for me. All those other lecturer teach that subject. I can also teach that subject, but because see the way that department do is depends on our what we call it expertise. For me, for example, I have expertise in finance, but it doesn't mean that I cannot teach first year subject. That's why my subject usually go to final year, towards final year. So basically, depreciation provision, when we deal with profit and loss account, so basically we have to come up with the absolution allowance, which is based on a fixed asset of its economic life. So you know how to calculate that. So basically, under the balance sheet, we have asset and liabilities. So there is 1% on the absolution allowance. So the funds will be available for expenditure on new investment in the same way as saving benefit. So that depreciation allowance or obsolescence allowance will actually be deducted from the balance sheet, and that amounts can actually be used as a fund for the purpose of future investment. So the firm will be allowed to write off charges for obsolescence out of taxable profit. Write off, that means that we get the money out of the actual balance sheet. So that amount will become the amounts out of the tax. For example, they were supposed to pay because we take out a certain amount. So that amount, the net profit we calculated, of course we have to deduct this amount. So that amount we can actually use for the purpose of other investment. So that's what you call a depreciation provision. You can see, refer back to profit and loss account on the balance sheets. You can see that the depreciation provision is there. So that amount is not supposed to be taxable. So we have to deduct that one. So for example, the buildings, we purchased a building last year. So this year, we can actually consider about 5% already absolute from the actual value that we purchased last year. So we take out that amount. The share issues, I already mentioned just now, when the company want to grow further, want to expand further. So usually they will come up with the IPOs, initial public offerings. So that that's the way that the company will make money. when people start to purchase their IPOs, their shares, so they have money, then they can expand their business. So that is the shares issues. So the shares can either be ordinary shares or preference shares. So basically, ordinary shares, which is the equities, will actually become, will actually tell us that the ordinary shareholder have a voting right. I have explained this to you before, and then dividend can vary. Last to be paid in the event of collapse. So that means if the company bankrupt, so ordinary share will come later, but the preference shareholder will actually be paid first under this case. So share price varies with trade and stock action. So the preference shares are paid before ordinary shareholders. So that means preference shares will actually be paid first because this thing is something like the debentures. This is not debentures, but something like debentures where we will actually get a fixed rate of return. So fixed rate of return, you put 100,000, and then the company agree to pay you dividends of 5%, just like the fixed deposit account. So that means the fixed rate of return, you'll get money. So if anything happened to the company, so this group will actually be considered first to get back whatever they lose. But ordinary shares, the one that I always mention to you in the New York Stock Exchange or Bursa Malaysia, this is ordinary shares. So it depends on your ability, depends on your, what we call it, critical analysis. So basically, you should be able to go up with this kind of shares further in order to make fast money, not fast money like schemes cepat kaya, not that way, but fast money in terms of to predict. That's why forecasting is very important. I love forecasting myself, but because you learn from other lecturer, so I don't know how much forecasting they have taught you. So basically, forecasting will actually help us, if we familiarize ourselves with the company, and then this is the best way to make money, especially when you take two things: the growth of the company plus the dividend. Not all company will offer that. And then cumulative preference shareholders have the right to dividend carried over next year in the events of non-payment. So the dividend you have received this year, you don't have to collect if you don't want to. So that dividend plus the existing shares you purchase, so this will accumulate to next year. So the new shares issues will actually arranged by merchant or investment banks. So these are the IPOs. The rights issue, existing shareholder gives right to buy new shares at discounted rate. And then bonus or scrip issue change the share structure, increase number of shares, and reduce value by market capitalization stays the same. So share scrip issue, so that means that like the mortgage-backed security system I mentioned to you already. So scrip-less purchase. So basically, we just do everything online. That's what I mean by scrip. Mortgage, I don't think I have to explain this. You can read through because we already discussed this very detailed. So sale and leasebacks. So basically, of a firm that have interest in actually, let's say Mas, for example, Malaysia Airlines. Last time they used to have buildings in Bukit Bintang there. So because of the difficulties they were having at that time, even now they're still having difficulties because of the COVID. So basically, they sell the buildings to other purchaser, but they do not move out. They still stay there. Last time they were the owner, but now they were the tenant. So the money they have through selling of the property, so they actually used to bail the problems of Malaysia Airlines at that time. And then on monthly basis, they have to pay the new owner because they are no longer the owner. That's what I mean by the sale and leaseback. So you can actually read through this. Debentures, we already discussed in detail, so I don't think I will re-explain to you. This debenture will become sources of long-term finance. Unless you don't understand, you can ask me later. And then this is the tutorial question. So tomorrow, please prepare 2 questions. next week, if possible, another 2 questions. If we do tutorial next week, that means we have to, because next week is already week 13, so that means the test, you have to decide when you are going to have the test, maybe at night or some other times. So we will discuss later, but we need to have a test definitely next week. Just